and I'm glad to welcome you all to the third session of Open Minds 2.0. We are grateful for your continued response and support towards Open Minds, because of which we are here. We are honored to have an esteemed speaker today who is passionate about using core consumer truths to drive business and brand decisions. She is Sabera Kapasi. With double master's degrees from two countries and over 16 years of work experience spanning the agency, client, and the big five consulting giants in both India and the US, she embodies strong leadership in advertising and marketing. From managing multinational FMCG brands as well as retail stores, brand for tools and home improvement, and even collaborating with music artists for decorating solutions brands, she has truly done it all. We can't wait to hear from her. Please join us in welcoming the person of the moment, Sabera Kapasi.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Surya. So hey everyone, my name is Sabera Kapasi. I have had a fairly extensive experience in digital marketing. I consider myself like a digital marketing generalist with a couple of specializations, namely one in communication strategy planning, and the second one being data strategy, which is exactly what we're going to discuss today, right? So I'll just quickly share my screen, and then we can get started. Okay, so Surya already made an awesome introduction, but I wanted to take this forum to share this beautiful picture of me against the the Bandra Worli Sea Link in Bombay. Apart from work, which Surya did a great job of introducing me on, I actually work is like just a sliver of my life. There's lots of other things I do. I do pottery. I also do Latin dancing, and I love food. So I'm constantly checking out new restaurants. And, Mr. Lakrawala has told me that Sikandrabad actually has a massive growth in cafes and restaurants and really interesting concepts in the food industry. So I'm hoping I can make a trip sometime soon to check that out. So if you have any tips for me, please post it in the chat. I'd love to learn from you. So before I move forward today, just a quick thing. In my current presenter view, I can't see the chat. So if someone from your team, Mr. Lakrawala, if you can ask them to just ping me if a question, because I'd like to keep it interactive.
Okay, sure.
Perfect. And one more little disclaimer before we start. So as you know, I work for Wavemaker right now, which is a WPP agency. I also work on some of the biggest CPG and manufacturing clients in the world. So everything that I'm sharing today is information from the public domain and my personal expertise and personal opinion layered on top of that. Absolutely nothing confidential will be shared. So if any clients or any colleagues are on the call today, rest assured, it's all cool. Also, I'd like to keep it interactive. So, if you don't understand something as I'm going on, just jump in, post it in the chat. I don't mind. Let's keep it a dialogue, right? All right, so this is what we're going to talk about today. And this is like a rough layout of what we'll talk today, but as questions come in, if people are more curious about something, Mr. Lakrawala, if you feel that I should be emphasizing more in a certain section as we go, just tell me and I can go with the flow there. So I think a lot of you know that there's a major transformation happening with Google right now. And also the second thing that we'll talk about is, because this massive change is happening in Google, what sort of different types of consumer data is it going to impact? Consumer data, business data, right? So it's going to affect B2C, B2B as well. And why is first party data in focus now? For some of you, this may be like an alien sounding sentence, but as we get through the rest of the presentation, you'll probably get an understanding of what I mean by this phrase. And most importantly, and this is where I'll spend most of the time when I speak to you guys, is how do you get ready for the future? Whether you're a brand, whether you're an advertiser, a professional in digital marketing, you're an agency head, an employee at an agency, or a freelancer, what can you do, right, to get ready? So I'm preaching to the choir when I say this. Consumer data fuels everything that we do, right? And customer data fuels everything that a business does. But do you guys know what fuels digital media, right? Again, the digital marketers in the room obviously knows that it's cookies. It's written on the slide. But cookies are what fuel digital media. Let me tell you how. So let me do a quick poll. How many of you have heard of this phrase called third-party cookies? If you just want to do a thumbs up, so then I'll see it on the screen. Like the react function, or post it in the chat. So let's hear from the experts what third-party cookies is.
In its most basic form, online cookies are memory cards that are able to recognize online behavior and remember your actions. It goes like this. When you visit a website, the website puts a little cookie on your hard drive with its own ID number. That site then uses this cookie to keep track of your session. In this case, the session is defined as the complete website experience from start to finish. It'll do things like keep track of the items in your shopping cart, remember login info, so when you close the page and come back, you don't need to re-enter it, and keep track of what items you've looked at to better serve you targeted ads. There are 3 distinct flavors of cookies. Session cookies are temporary and memorize your online activities. Persistent cookies are there to remember any preferences you make. And then there's what I like to call the creepy cookies, also known as third-party cookies, aka tracking cookies. These are the cookies your mother told you not to hang around. They collect various forms of data that are then passed on or even sold to advertisers by the website that created the cookie. They track your interests, location, age, and search trends. These cookies grab on the information that marketers then use to provide awesome custom ads. Yay! Great for advertisers, but not so much for user privacy. When asked about the upcoming removal.
So I'll pause the video there. So hopefully you have a sense of what third-party cookies is, right? Let me summarize. It's essentially a piece of code or a piece of text that's placed on your desktop or tracked on your handheld device every time you visit a website. And that code basically tracks everything that you do on that website, but potentially it could also be tracking what you're doing on the web in general. Right. And so even within third-party cookies, right, which you might have heard in industry articles that third-party cookies are going away. It's not even black and white within that. Even within third-party cookies, which is the code that actually tracks your behavior as a user across different websites. And then they use that information to sell you, a custom product or a personalized experience or a personalized message, or they even sell it to someone like, say, a Myntra, right? A Myntra wants to get to somebody who's a fashion aficionado. And if you've browsed the internet on fashion websites, you're tagged as a fashion aficionado and you're targeted an ad by them. All that is done through third-party cookies. But there's a lot of texture even within that. So marketing cookies help deliver targeted ads. There's functional cookies which help you optimize your website. And then there's analytics cookies that help you track, who's converting where, how much time are they spending on your site. And the practitioners in the room or even the clients in the room, you might have seen reports from your agencies or freelance, right, on these metrics. So the bottom line is that for every organization, the risk on third-party cookies going away is different. So it's very important to look at that gray area as we even listen into what I'm going to say for the rest of this session. And so why is all this even happening? This is a busy slide, but the key message I'll leave you with: consumers are becoming more and more aware of the fact that advertisers are using their data and selling it to anybody and making money off of that. And consumers are getting more and more uncomfortable with that. So there's been a major global movement towards asking digital media, digital advertisers for more privacy. And it really started in Europe. Europe was like the front runner of setting privacy laws for their citizens. Started with GDPR in 2016. But over the years, various different countries or even specific states within countries, in the case of the United States, have released their own data laws, which in a nutshell, the objective is to protect. The most interesting thing that has happened is in India last year, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act got released. This is modeled off of the GDPR. It's fairly stringent, but it has some even more strict guidelines on top of it. TBD on the full impact on advertisers and the digital marketing industry in India. It's an evolving space. But the second thing also that's important to note is, and by the way, Google has been talking about deprecating cookies since January 2020. So they've continuously delayed it, and literally, I would say a week ago, they moved it from Q4 this year to 2025. So the bottom line that I'd like to share on this slide is consumers are becoming more aware of their data. They don't want anybody and everybody to use it. And the consciousness is growing in India as well. And the important part is Google can keep doing whatever they want. They can keep delaying the date. But the truth is if we're practicing in this industry, we need to prepare for this right now, even though the cookies haven't gone away completely. So let's double click into that, right? And sorry, I missed, some of you may be wondering that, why is it such a big impact for India? So Chrome as a browser has the largest market share in the world, 60%. So there are other browsers like Firefox, Mozilla, Safari. They got rid of third-party cookies years ago because that was their sort of corporate ethos. They wanted to build a platform that was privacy safe. Google didn't do that from the beginning. And now that privacy laws are changing all over the world, they're now forced to do this. So that's why this is such a big deal at this juncture in time, and especially for India. One more thing to note is that Google has already started removing third-party cookies from the Chrome browser. About 1% of users all over the world don't have third-party cookie tracking right now. The frustrating part is that Google doesn't even tell us where this 1% is located, what's the distribution across countries across the world, or even regions, right? So we asked, okay, tell us APAC or tell us EMEA. They can't share that information. And they're running a bunch of tests to see, okay, if a consumer's third-party cookies are not, or if a consumer's behavior is not tracked through third-party cookie tracking, what impact does that have on being able to target them accurately? What impact does it have on measuring their behavior on a website, so on and so forth? They are yet to release the results of this test. And the reason why they actually moved it from this year to next year, the final deprecation, is because there's a UK governance body that wrapped them on the knuckles and said that whatever solutions you're providing are not sufficient enough. You need to be a lot more thorough. So that's why Google has actually said in their public announcements that they're moving it to next year. So as you can see, there's so much ambiguity, so much is changing, right? But you as a marketer still need to be grounded in this change. And why do you need to be grounded in this change? Because even though consumers are being skeptical about sharing their information, they still want personalized ads. They still want comms that speak to what they've already done on your website, right? So for example, I shop on Marks and Spencer, right? If I've continuously browsed in the loungewear section for several days in a row, Marks and Spencer should be serving me ads on my Instagram, in my Google browser when I'm looking at information on loungewear, right? And if they don't do that, me as a consumer, could feel like, at least personally, generationally for me, because there are different generational risks. So consumers still want personalized interactions. And there's also lots of white papers saying that when you serve personalized interactions to a consumer, your media ROI, your brand ROI is actually significantly higher than when you serve them generic ads. So even though Google will keep, so quiz time again. Can you please post in the chat, what is first party data, what is second party data, and what is third party data? Now note, I'm not talking about cookies anymore. I'm talking about data. So don't confuse third-party cookies with third-party data. They're two different things. I already gave you a hint. So start posting on what your definition is, and bonus points for giving me an example. Or if you want to unmute and just talk. And don't Google, let's do the honor system, guys. Yes, Surya. But you're also an expert in the field, so. Okay, first party data is about oneself. I'll just read these out. So Surya said first party data does, it means that it's your own website and whatever data you extracted from your actual visitors. Harpreet says first party data is about oneself. So both is saying first party data collects directly from user. Sanjay is saying from your customer base. What about second party and third party? Anybody there? All this is correct on first party data. If nobody knows, that's cool as well. Second party data, Akshita is saying data acquired from another trusted partner or a vendor. Data acquired from another company. Subodh is saying that. Ram is saying website is first party. Third party, they are by other domains. Cool. So I think, again, about 10 to 15% people have a sense of what this means. So what is this? So let's take the example of Myntra, right? I know a lot of ladies and guys on the call must be shopping from Myntra. So when you log into the Myntra app or when you come to the website, after you've logged in, and after you've logged in is the key differentiator here. After you've logged in and given your consent, the data that you do when you're browsing their app, browsing their site, the email and phone number you use to log in, that is first party data. Now, technically, even before you give consent, sometimes on desktop, the brand can still track some data, but in the true sense of the word, first party data is consented data. So the consumer is explicitly telling you, yes, you can track my data, you can track what I'm doing on your site, and I want to be served personalized information. Second party data is what Myntra may borrow from Facebook or Google or say, like another type of advertising platform to learn about their consumer and to serve, say, ads to that consumer or even run market research surveys. So basically, second party data is data owned by somebody else. So second party data is where, say, for example, Myntra wants to say that I want to grow my customer base by 1 million over the next week, right? I want to get 1 million new customers into my app. And Facebook says that, hey, I'm actually sitting on this treasure trove of information of people who've logged into Facebook, who will have an affinity for online shopping, who have an affinity for e-commerce, etc., and an affinity for Myntra's products. And you would borrow their data. So it's Facebook and Google's first party data, but from Myntra's standpoint. So third party data is data that's typically aggregated by certain partners or publicly available information that is then layered with other data sets. So let's go back to Myntra. So Myntra says, okay, Facebook, Google, you have all this. I actually now I have data on X million women who are shopping on my site. I know that 30% are really affluent. They are making higher purchase volumes. I know that about 20% is actually not, they've logged into my app, but they're not shopping at all. They haven't even bought a single thing. I want to understand more about them. What is the profile of these people? So they would go to somebody like a vServe. Now, vServe is a data aggregator. They also have other tech platforms that they offer to consumers, but they work with the Future Group, which is the shopping malls and retail chains. and take consumer purchase data from them. They package it into different segments. They run their own models and analytics tools on top of it. And then they offer it to a Myntra saying, hey, I have all this data from all these different retail partners and data vendors that I've pooled together with consent, with proper permissioning. It's all legal. And because you want to reach somebody who is not so much of an e-commerce shopper, but you want to understand what their profile is, I'll sell this data to you. So a lot of people even call them data brokers. So these are some examples. Oracle has their own, database that's aggregated. Lutame in India has a good presence. MapMyIndia tracks geographic information. So if you want at scale, you want somebody's exact city, state, location, you can get it from MapMyIndia. PayU is a payment gateway, as you all know. You might have all interacted with it when doing online shopping. They also, aggregate all the information and sell it back to advertisers. Cool. Before we move forward again, one more quiz. So you've heard about what third-party cookie deprecation is. You've heard about the 3 types of consumer data. You've heard about the ambiguity in the marketplace on third-party cookies going away. Can someone tell me who's going to be affected by this? So what are the different stakeholders, groups of people from your perspective as a digital marketer? Yes, the advertisers. Yeah, Kalyan, great point. On a broader note, there's a growing focus on user privacy and control over the data. This means continued development of alternative solutions for ad targeting that don't rely on third-party cookies. Perfect. Who else will be impacted by third-party cookies going away? Digital agencies, data brokers, consumers. Yes. Fani Kumar says consumers. Most people miss this, by the way, Fani, so well done. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So both consumers, regulators, privacy advocates. Yes, I think you guys get the gist, right? So these are the different stakeholders. The consumer, of course, because they're looking for personalized experiences. The digital marketer, and I'll spend some more time on this. The publisher, people who put out content, who put out websites and apps and build experiences, and the brand and the advertiser. So let's go one by one. And this is where you can get more practical information on from this session. At least I hope so. So the consumer will get consent pop-ups from site owners, right? This may be irritating for some, this may be welcomed by some, because generationally different consumers have different risk capacity for sharing their private information. There are multiple surveys on this, and you can even look it up in the public domain. They'll also potentially see lower personalized experiences, right? So that may lead to a loss in brand equity, brand image, brand love, things like that. And so what can a marketer do, right? To combat the pop-ups and the consent piece, it's very important that your website or app has a consent management system. If you're somebody who has a website through which consumers or customers can place orders or learn about your company, very important that you have a consent management system. What the system does is, first of all, it gets explicit consent from your consumer, but in the future, say, someone changes their mind and say, I don't want to receive any more marketing from you. I'm done with you tracking my information. They can log out and your consent management system automatically shuts off all comms. And this will actually be legally punishable in the future, potentially with the DPDP. So very important to install this. And in terms of the next few slides, I'll tell you what the solution is for the second one, right? Okay, the digital marketer, big one here for this forum. So what will get affected? Audience targeting, lookalike targeting. So, if you want to reach a very specific audience set, you may not get the accuracy that you did before. Or if you want to find people that are similar to a segment that's there on, say, Google or Facebook, it'll be very difficult to get those similar people. Conversion attribution, you may not know where somebody is moving on a website, where exactly have they converted on your site, so that you can target them again. Even brand lift studies. So a lot of you in the room may have run this with Facebook, Google, or other partners, right? That also is done through third-party cookies, and we'll see a hit. And even engagement. So you may want to know how people are engaging with various different types of creatives you have running. That may shift. So Google has some very solid solutions in place. Actually, in due diligence, they're putting out the best solution possible out there. It's different that regulatory bodies are not okay with it, but Google is doing their due diligence. So there's something called the privacy sandbox that I'll speak more about. And Facebook has also launched something called the CAPI, which is like it's a privacy safe environment where you can run ads without reliance on third-party cookies. And then Google has a similar solution. So it's the same solution, but by two different providers, called enhanced conversions. And I think from a people and process standpoint, it's very, very, very important. If you guys are agency heads, if you guys are team leaders, very important to adopt a testing culture in your team if you don't have that already. What that means is that get comfortable with having good enough tests or good enough solutions when you're advertising for your, figuring out a plan for your brand, right? It doesn't have to be perfect to launch. Figure out the best possible way to configure your media plan or your brand strat, and run a test before you scale it. And adopting a fail fast mindset, because the space is evolving so much. Very important to have a mindset where you're like, yeah, I ran this test. I spent 4,000-5,000 rupees. This is what I learned from it. Move on. Just move on and learn from that. So I have a video on
Age. Last up, the privacy sandbox.
The Privacy Sandbox is designed to replace the need for old technology like third-party cookies and advertising ID with new innovations that keep your personal information more private, safe, and secure.
By limiting covert tracking, it'll provide publishers with safer alternatives to third-party cookies, so you can continue building digital businesses while your customers' data stays private. It also blocks the use of device fingerprinting, a controversial, sketchy tactic that's often used as an immediate replacement to third-party cookies. Google has yet to really release anything other than a beta version of Sandbox, but when they make the official release in early 2023, it'll be as easy to use as a Chrome extension. To wrap it up, online cookies are necessary but only work in moderation. Think of first-party cookies as nutritious and delicious additions to any healthy browsing diet.
Okay, I'll just pause there because I'm doing a detail on first-party data a little bit later on. But essentially, this video is a little bit dated. So Google did release the privacy sandbox earlier this year. Our agency, Wavemaker, has already started running tests with it for our clients. It is very simple to use. There's plenty of online information. So if you, as a brand advertiser, digital marketer, are very, very reliant on Google for your marketing, absolutely, you need to start testing with the privacy sandbox. Here's a case study on Facebook CAPI that I found really interesting.
Hello marketers, welcome back to this channel. In this video, we are going to see a case study explanation. This case study is based on a Canadian insurance company, and we are going to see how first-party data has helped their full funnel marketing campaign. The first thing that we did for this was implementing CAPI. Simple, implementing CAPI. We enabled the server-side tracking for them, and within few days of implementing CAPI, we started seeing changes in that EMQ score. So that was the first step we did for this client, because there was audience signal loss and a lot of data, the conversion data, the click data were not appearing on their console. So the first thing that we wanted to regain was their audience signal by implementing the CAP. So the second strategy is we created some interesting audience segments for them. So the first one is people who have inquired about their services a few times before, or people who have visited their blog pages locating in Canada. So these were the audience that we created, and they started using this particular audience in their ad campaigns, and they saw a 67% lower CPL in their retargeting campaigns. The CPL was way reduced with the help of first-party data. What we thought was these audience worked well in their retargeting campaigns, but we wanted to test this in the top funnel. So what we did was we created a high intent mid-funnel audience and created a lookalike of it. I mean, pushed those audience into ad platforms and created a lookalike of it. The CPL from this lookalike campaigns was 60% lower than the normal Facebook audience campaign. Also, we saw 2x conversions in the mid-funnel campaigns, which means the top funnel campaign, the lookalike campaign, was driving more traffic to the mid-funnel campaign. So here we saw 2x conversion. So that's how first-party data played a major role in their audience and in their conversions and in their optimization. Since privacy.
So some of the terms that, she mentioned, maybe, even personally, I don't know what EMQ is, right? But what she's basically explaining is that she worked for a, D2C client. They wanted to run lead gen ads. They wanted to run conversion ads in the post-cookie deprecation world. They wanted to test it out. And they implemented Facebook CAPI, which is literally a code that you place in your campaign. And, there's a setup for it as well. There are specialists who do the setup, but you can even in-house it, based on certain training. And as you can see, she's able to compare actually what the conversion was within that privacy safe environment versus when you run it with the help of third-party cookies. And these are the kinds of tests you should be doing before cookies go away completely. In fact, by the time cookies go away, you shouldn't even be, you should be at full scale. You shouldn't even be testing, right? So some of the technical aspects maybe you may not recognize, but the key point to take away here is privacy safe products are being released by advertisers, and these are the kinds of experiments you can run. This was an example of the kind of results you can see. So very, very important that you start implementing this
Hello, marketers, welcome back.
as a test. Then the fourth stakeholder is the publisher. Now, along with third-party cookies, advertisers are also very reliant on publishers because they supply the content and the websites that consumers browse, right? That's what the internet exists for. But if they have ad-based revenue streams, and everybody does, that'll get impacted because targeting will not be available accurately for advertisers. And hence, advertisers may not know where to invest their money. So if you see, and if you go to some of your favorite online news channels or like blogs, etc., in the last few years, you must have seen almost all of them are asking you to log in beyond a certain point. So a paywall is something that can make sure that the consumer is investing into your brand. They're explicitly giving you consent to track their data. And over and above that, you're creating a login so that you can serve them personalized communications and eventually help your ad-based revenue stream as well. There's something called data clean rooms. I won't go into it. This is probably something you can Google after this session, but very important for publishers to adopt that as well. Data clean rooms are essentially this sort of environment where they can share their data with an advertiser or take in an advertiser's data without contaminating it with anything else. So it's completely privacy safe, which is per the latest data laws. And building unified IDs. What this basically means is, say me, Sabera, I go on NewYorkTimes.com and I, continue to browse their website over a period of several months. New York Times is building a unified identity for me and saying, she's browsing this type of content. And, for all in the United States, they may even be tagging me as a Democrat versus a Republican based on the content I read, or a liberal versus far right, etc., right? Whatever's important for the brand, it creates a unified ID for of the customer that can then be used for personalized targeting or even be sold to an advertiser based on consenting. So just wanted to give you a flavor there. Brand advertiser, again, I'll spend a little bit of time here. So I think some of you, you might know this by now, right? I've said it so many times. Accurate media targeting will get affected. Accurate campaign measurement. I spoke about brand lift studies earlier. Even digital market research. So for a lot of you lately, something a lot more economical than, going in person and interviewing or doing a focus group is quickly running a digital survey within a panel and getting results literally sometimes within 24 hours, right? On say brand preference or sentiment testing, etc. That is all also fueled by third-party cookies, which will get affected. And of course, a brand wants to serve bespoke experiences to their consumers, that'll get affected. So this is where first-party data comes in. Even if you're a small advertiser and you may not have the crores of rupees to build millions of first-party data points, there are small ways that you can start pooling in your first-party data that you may very likely already have if you have a website especially, or figure out a way to collect more first-party data. The other one is also to do an audit. So this is where your agency partners, your freelance partners, your media partners come in, where you say that, hey, I want to understand what is my risk right now with third-party cookie exposure. How much do I stand to lose if I don't do any testing right now, right? Just to establish a baseline. And many agencies, including Wavemaker, actually have an established audit product that we run for clients. Many other agencies do as well. Thirdly, ask your agency about the tests you can kick off. We've talked about Facebook CAPI, Privacy Sandbox, right? Those are the kind of products you should be testing. And explore the right data partnerships. Let me give you an example here. So say you're a B2B cement client, right? Fairly industrial. Maybe you're very regional also. You're not all over India. But you want to reach your customers through, say, some sort of loyalty marketing. It's not to direct consumers. It could be through customers. But you don't maybe say fully understand what their profile is or what what their receptivity is to your brand. So you may partner with another data partner that maybe has retailer information or store level information on the kind of products maybe that they stock, or the regions where the demand for cement is high, etc. Combine those data sets and then craft campaigns accordingly. I know the example may sound very broad, but I'm purposely keeping it that way so you can apply it to your respective industries. And I think what's critically important is organizational data transformation. That's the need of the hour. So I'll just play some case studies here.
How Coca-Cola uses data and experiments to drive business decisions. Coca-Cola, the world's largest drinks company, has been using data for a very long time. But a really cool example is that they started to put connected vending machines all across the world. So these vending machines allow customers to create their own drinks. So if you wanted a cherry flavored Sprite, you could have this. If you wanted to have a mango flavored Diet Coke, you can pick that. Challenging themselves to the most horrible drink you could possibly drink, and they would try it, but then they would never order this again. But over time, you get some real trends. And you get trends by country and by region too. So in the UK, for example, what they found is that people were actually buying cherry flavored Sprite. That was a very popular drink in these vending machines. Another one was a exotic mango flavored Diet Coke. This data is then aggregated over time and is the perfect market research because Coca-Cola can make decisions based on real data. So they've seen customers buying this again and again and again, and they've actually used this data to launch 2 new products. One is the cherry flavored Sprite, and the second one is exotic mango flavored Diet Coke.
So I know Coke, massive organization, and a lot of us may not be in that realm, right, of scale. But the point that I wanted to drive home with this video is what Coca-Cola did is they collected first-party data through this experience, this like offline experience where they had these vending machines. And for the consumer, they want to create their own drink. So it's very grounded in their business business construct. And through that, they collected the first party data through which they were able to do new product innovation.
How Coca-Cola uses
This is another case study on a B2B shoes brand.
Each of our brands was started by an innovator who is passionate about something in their lives, whether it's surfing or ultra marathons or whether it's river rafting. The Deckers brands were all born from entrepreneurial spirit, people with passion and understanding what their consumers needed, and that still lives with Deckers today. Deckers had had amazing growth for almost a decade, and then about 10 years ago, the growth slowed. We realized that the problem was we lacked connectivity with our consumers. We had to refocus our people, our process, and our technology to be consumer-oriented. So when we combined Google Marketing Platform and Google Cloud, the two tools together gave us great consumer insights on what creative to serve and which consumers were most likely to purchase.
2020 was unlike anything we've ever seen. Having that clear view of first-party data really allowed us to see trends take off in the past year. When the pandemic first started, we saw that people were looking for at-home comfort. We were able to speak to them with our UGG brand. Then as people started to exercise at home, Hoka was really a great brand. As we move further and further to a new normal, Teva and Sanuk really help people who are ready to get outdoors. We were prepared for this moment in time and were able to really adapt quickly.
One of the things we saw with the pandemic was a huge increase in our site traffic. So that's where we turned to Google Cloud technology, including BigQuery, to develop a machine learning model to predict whether these new customers coming to the site were likely to purchase or not. The model turned out to be very successful. We were able to accurately predict purchasers. When we deployed the model in the rest of the Google marketing stack, we saw lower cost per acquisition and increased conversion rate.
So I'll just pause there, right? Because then it gets into selling the Google products. But again, the point from this video is that they use their business problem, right, of declining sales a few years ago, and the decline happened even before the pandemic. They use that as an impetus to completely rebuild their digital stack, their data stack within the organization, right? And that is what helped them be ready for the eventual cookie deprecation. So really what's critical is that you take an organizational data transformation mindset and then say, okay, year one, what is it that's important for me? What do I need to do? Year two, what will I do? Year three, what will I do? And eventually, what's my vision 5, 10 years down the line? And honestly, you know, my background is in very large brands, very large corporate organizations, global organizations, but I've seen this approach work with small brands as well. If you just Google Bernard Marr, I had his one of his videos in the presentation. He has excellent case studies on like small brands, small businesses as well. So do read up on that. Right, so I'm almost at the end, and I do want to leave some room for Q&A. We have about 10 minutes, but I'm just curious if you want to write in the chat or just unmute and talk about, you know, you've listened to all of this. It was a fairly sort of 1,000-foot view of things. What is it that you're going to start doing next? I'm just curious, no right or wrong answers. Just curious to learn. Are you going to do everything, or you're going to do, or you're already doing everything? So that's why there's nobody posting. Yes, absolutely. Make clients aware of these issues. Yeah, Surya, see other case studies on how other clients are working about this. Yeah, read up on Cappy. Vignesh. Yeah, Bharadwaj will, you know, talk to clients about this. Yes, Rahman, I'll send a list out. So I'll share it with Mr. Lakdawala and then he can float it out to everybody. Start optimization, build your own community and database. Sanjay is saying that. That's great to hear. Yeah, Jimmy is saying start optimization. Subodh, update on the latest trends and developments. effectively engage audiences. Yeah, great. I mean, great to hear. So, I mean, really, that was the objective of meeting today, to sort of make you cognizant of what's out there, what's the latest, and then give you a jumping off point to start reading more and see what applies to your respective business. Cool. So that's all from me. We have a little less than 10 minutes, so we can have a discussion. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sabera, can you stop your screen share, please?
Yes, I will.
Hi, Sabera. Thank you so much for the session today. Everyone, we will just take another 10 minutes to Sabera will answer all your questions if anyone has any questions. And then we'll end today's session. So please go on and ask your questions.
Sabera, hi, Rekha here.
Hey, Rekha.
So you said that, data privacy is very important now. So example, if it's my own website or my own company or product, I can ask for consent. But how do I validate that the data which I get from third party or from Facebook or whichever, which you said that second and third party, the consent is taken? Because tomorrow the communication is going from, example, Tempest or Myntra or wherever. And if there is a filing or there is an issue, still in India, we have not reached that level. But if it happens, then who is responsible for it? Is it me who, as a company, has sent that, or somebody from whom I have bought the data?
Yes, this is a fabulous question, Rekha. Thank you for asking that. So there are two aspects to this. One is, if you're working with a company like Google, Facebook, global, massive, giant organizations, you can ask for their data privacy compliance, which is all public domain. So you don't really have to worry about massive global organizations such as that. And Facebook, as you know, with the Cambridge Analytica fiasco a few years ago, they've anyway tightened their consumer data privacy laws within the way they operate. So large global folks, you don't have to worry. And even if something happens, my hunch is that the risk would pass on to them. In terms of third-party partners, I agree with you that you need to be checking their data privacy agreements. You need to be checking their fine print on exactly what they ask the consumer when they're asking for consent. In my experience personally, as a data strategist, I have come across big brand name data partners where, when we do our due diligence, and Group M and WPP has a whole, array of legal processes to go for a partner to go through before they're onboarded, right? And they're extremely comprehensive and severe as well, severe in a good way, right? Because we want to protect our clients. For large partners, we've assessed them and we've seen that they don't meet some of the data privacy pieces. They are not asking for consent in an explicit manner. And at that point, it is a choice you make on whether you want to work with them or not. And if there is a privacy law violation, you'll need to assess that with your legal team on who takes on the risk. You may need to sign a document absolving you from any risk, which is all possible. You can work with your legal team to do that. But as a basic thing, if you don't have a massive legal team to back you up like a large organization, just ask them, can you please give me the literature on what you ask the consumer when you're seeking consent? Where exactly are you seeking consent? Which touch points are you seeking consent? And I want data only from there. I don't want data where you're not seeking consent explicitly. So if you just do that, you're already reducing your risk quite a bit.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sabera, we have another question in chat.
Yeah.
Karthik is asking, how can we as businesses resist against government restrictions against end-to-end privacy, like the WhatsApp situation going at the moment?
Honestly, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, Karthik. Maybe you can explain and someone in the group could have a response. But I think in general, what you're asking is, how can you resist the government's restrictions on end-to-end privacy? I don't think resist is the right word. I think it's adapting to what the market is demanding, right? Consumers are asking for more privacy, and there are a lot of bad apples in the industry who are misusing consumer data. So this is all to protect your own consumers and you as a brand as well. So I think it's very important to put on your creative thinking hat and say that, okay, if these are the restrictions I have, what else can I do? How can I work around it? What is legal? What isn't? Which is why I said, keep a testing mentality, keep a fail fast mentality. But yeah, you can jump in if you have anything else to contribute. Okay, Kalyan is asking, how can multidisciplinary railway engineering and technology consulting services ensure effective communication and collaboration with various engineering disciplines involved in? I'm not familiar with this industry, and I don't understand your question. I'm sorry, Kalyan. Yeah, if you want to rephrase maybe. So both, I work in agri-input industry at Dhanuka Agritech. For us, farmers are the consumers and we work for enriching their life. Rural digital connect is going very high, and how can we be the strategy to live? How can we use the strat? Will brand live study apply? So both, yeah, great question. Actually, I'm personally getting into a lot of projects where, first party data is being collected through rural engagements. And in fact, because of the reach of geo, right, and the massive growth over there, it's becoming more and more easy. You should look up the Unilever Kan Khajura campaign case study. Just Google it. Basically, it was a voice-based, marketing campaign where, a consumer would give their phone number through a certain interaction, either at a mela or, through some door-to-door experience, and then they would get a call where an automated message would play. And I've personally implemented campaigns where that's been very effective, be it building brand love or brand preference, be it changing mindset. So a lot of NGOs have done that, be it educating them on something, maybe it's a product that eliminates chemical pesticides, for example. So I've seen a lot of case studies over there. Just Google Unilever's Kan Khajura campaign and you'll get a sense of that. That could be a jumping off point of figuring out what you can do.
Okay, Sabera, I have a small comment that you mentioned about who are the people who are going to be impacted because of this third-party cookie deprecation.
Yes.
Don't you think that even the government's revenues will be impacted to a very small extent? In the sense, the government collects taxes on all advertising.
Yes.
Maybe the government themselves might be interested in seeing that we advertise and make money for them.
Yes. I mean, I may sort of ruffle some feathers when I say what I'm about to say, but I'm sure the government will figure out ways to make money, right? Like they won't let that go.
So we have a friend in the government.
Okay.
No,
yeah,
I'm saying that government will favor more advertising for more revenues.
Precisely. They'll partner with the privacy safe products, right? Because they don't want advertising revenue to go down. So, and Google, I mean, 60% reach in Chrome. So then even they won't let the revenue go, right? So yeah.
Good.
Mr. Jimmy Carter is saying government will increase the tax rate. Absolutely. James, okay, there's an off-topic query. What happens to the small e-commerce aggregator working in niche segments? If we spend on marketing for our brand, then the Zeptos or Blinkit come and take away our consumers on faster. Is it good to spend on ads for small e-commerce aggregator companies? Yeah, James, it sounds like this is more of a query on your core product and value prop rather than data itself. So, what's the value prop you're offering to prevent competitive, competition? So Yeah, I'm not sure I have an answer, but Mr. Lakrawala, if you want to jump in.
No, I don't have anything right now, but maybe a little later.
Vignesh Anand, just one last question. Could you please reiterate the campaign structure you'd mentioned for reaching farmers for agri-tech? Yeah, so Vignesh, it's not a campaign structure. I just threw out some ideas that major brands are already doing. There's like a voice operated campaign, you know, now even in melas and in door-to-door interactions, they're doing QR code based data collection. So phone numbers are being collected, and then people in rural areas are being sent pre-recorded voice messages on their phones based on their consent. Cool. I think we're at time.
Yes. So I think I just want to take this moment to thank Sabera. Thank you so much for today's session. And we just have a query. Yes, also for everyone, I'm just gonna repeat it again. This session is recorded and will be available on our website and our YouTube channel. So you can watch this session over again if you want to have any insights. I believe someone is speaking. Okay. So yes, like I was saying, I was just want to take this moment to thank Sabera. Thank you so much for today's session. I believe every participant will now look and read into cookies, what they're allowing on websites before just clicking on allow. And I also want to thank all the participants who are present here. Thank you so much for being here, being active participants. Thank you so much for questions. I am hoping that you guys had a clear answers to all the questions that Sabera has answered. Plus, I believe that we all will be looking forward to, learning more about Google's privacy sandbox and Facebook CAPI, and maybe looking more into that. We also, as an agency, would be learning and researching more about how and what new we can implement through our first party data maybe, and start utilizing whatever we have at hand and add more from what we have learned from you today. So thank you so much, Sabera, and thank you so much for putting up the whole effort into creating a presentation and giving us your time today. We look forward to being in touch with you. And for all the participants, we look forward to seeing you on our next Open Mind sessions. Thank you so much for being here.
You're most welcome. This was so fun. Thank you for inviting me.